For last year's Porsche Restoration Challenge, we did a gorgeous 1955 Speedster. And the idea was, what if Galpin had a Porsche franchise back in the 50s? How would we galvanize it? So for this Restoration Challenge, we're doing something similar, but for a different era, the 1970s. And we're gonna get wild. We started with a 1974 Targa, one that unfortunately had been parked and neglected and unloved for years. The last thing you'd want for a Porsche. It also is pretty conservatively built, with a white with a black interior. As you probably know, we're not going for conservative here. So our inspiration was really going back to Porsche's history of taking things off-road. This started off really in the early 70s when Porsche went off-road in East Africa, and of course later in the 80s at Dakar.
On the roof and on top of the world.
So we wanted something that honored Porsche's off-road past, but did it in a new kind of way.
A little light higher.
We got the team together to talk about what we could do that's a little bit out of the ordinary. What suspension we're doing and and really make this thing into a safari Porsche.
And then you could justify a way more aggressive, wider tire.
Yeah. When we started tearing down the Targa, we started at the ground floor and took meticulous care of every part to get it ready to be restored. As we pull this car apart, you can really see the decades of dirt that are in there. And if you think about it, the last time human hands actually touched a lot of these parts was when the car was built back in the early 1970s. So once we got the body torn apart, it was then up to our lead tech, Nick, to tear apart the engine. The engine is the heart of the Porsche. So in addition to restoring it, of course we wanted to get more horsepower and performance out of it. It started with an air-cooled 2.7 liter flat six. And Nick's got something up his sleeve to bring some extra performance out of it as well. We sent the body out for sandblast and primer to get ready for a custom paint job. So if we're going to do some serious off-roading in this car, safety is critical. So we had Eric build a 4-point roll cage, which also helps with its structural rigidity. For nighttime driving, we got the safari-style light bar that's going in addition to making this thing look really cool. So this year's build is even more complicated because we took what's built for the road and speed and took it off-road to make it capable of taking on any terrain. After the cams were installed, we then began the process of timing the engine. The crankcase has been assembled with a 92mm Nikasil piston cylinder, an increase of 2 millimeters. We wanted to squeeze every horse out of this Porsche, and it'll move when we're done with it. Of course, performance is absolutely key on this build, but the fun part is actually the aesthetic on the exterior. So we definitely didn't want to lose that 70s vibe. Dave Shudden's custom paintwork will surely turn heads. I mean, I want it to be fun. I mean, fun when you're driving it, fun when you're looking at it, fun when you're even thinking about it.
We're here today because Porsche Santa Clarita is taking part in this Porsche Restoration Challenge, which
my buddy Matt Farah wanted to come and check it out. So he brought down his Smoking Tire podcast and we chatted about it.
Paint job is trippy.
Yeah, it's going to freak some people out.
That's cool. I'm a fan of it.
So thank you.
I've seen a couple classic 911s that do have a paint job similar to what you're doing.
Yeah, but this is going to be far more obnoxious.
Well, it's green.
I like it.
Yeah,
It's really
it's bright green.
It's really green.
It's not subtle.
Look, I know we've barely given you a peek at this restored Targa. So what's next? The big reveal in Pebble Beach, and it's going to be groovy.